I love it when everybody pops on.
I think so. We were talking about that, to do that, something like that. For FASD awareness day.
It's great. Hello, everyone. Hello, FASD champions and leaders. You all, welcome to the August edition of the NOFAS policy meeting. So we are recording, as you noted when we came in. So you can find this later on the Policy Center site. Jen gets that up quite quickly, as you know, and then also you can see that at the NOFAS YouTube page, Alcohol-Free Pregnancy. Just if you ever want to take a look there, there's a lot of videos going back many years on the topic, so please do check that out. August, but we're still here on the case, and I guess official Washington is in recess, but the team has been busier than ever. Susan, Jen, and everyone, Susan Ellsworth, and who are on today. And this is really an important time, really critical. So we've, thanks to you all, we've made some progress, gained traction, I guess, if you will. But now we have to close the deal with folks, and we have to really redouble our efforts. So we're going to talk about that today. There's a whole bunch of great stuff happening for FASD Awareness Month. Jan in the past has told you about the Run FASD, so we're going to hear about all of that and a lot of important practical information. And I will end by telling you who I am. I'm Tom Donaldson with NOFAS, and then next hand off to Susan Ellsworth, who's of course, our affiliate director for some updates.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you. It is exciting when we first open up the portal and everybody pops on. You get to see how many people are here with us. It's our last policy meeting. We have added 2 affiliates to the NOFAS affiliate network.
Oh, you're.
Yep, I'll unmute myself. That we've added 2 new affiliates to the affiliate network since our last policy team meeting, which is really exciting. And we hear about lots of work that you're doing around the country, looking for ways to partner with you. NOFAS will be having their summit, and it will be a virtual summit in September, the 27th through the 29th. And if there's anything that we can do to answer questions about what it's like to be an affiliate of NOFAS, please reach out to us and give us an opportunity to share ways we think we can partner together. Jen?
I will unmute myself. And Tom, can I share my screen? Gosh, you'd think I'd be better at this than the amount of times I do this. So I am Jen Wisdahl and work for NOFAS on the policy team, and I'm so excited to see all of you here today. This is my favorite day of the month because I get to catch up with everybody kind of at one time. We have been really busy over the last couple of months, and we want to give you an overview today, save some time for questions, and hopefully answer some questions along the way. So we always start off with an update and a status. And Susan, I'll let you go ahead and take this piece of it. Susan Shepard Carlson, she's a policy wonk. So what that means is she actually helped to write sections of the FASD Respect Act, and really love that she took lived experience from parents, caregivers, individuals with FASD, service providers into consideration when she was doing that. So she is kind of our heavy lifter when it comes to questions about the bill. So Susan, I'll have you fill in as my partner in crime.
And yeah, we are partners in crime, I think. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. This is one slide you'll see at every policy meeting until the FASD Respect Act is signed into law. And I know that Jen's already talked about wanting to be at the White House when that happens, and I'll join her in that. But when we started this journey, we looked at it like you're building a foundation, because we don't have that foundation, unfortunately. And so this is the foundation. And I have to say that the advocates and parents in all meetings we've had have really understood that and have given that message to members of Congress. So the foundation is really the understanding and awareness of this issue by our policymakers and the general public. And then this is the first step. And then, as you see, we'll build up from there until we get to the roof. Next slide. And this is another slide that we'll keep in, because it keeps us grounded on what the bill is and what it's designed to do. And it provides resources to states. And a bulk of the money is going to the states to address this issue. And we found in all of our meetings around the country that, unfortunately, most states are not doing identification, intervention, and prevent more in the prevention area. And then also best practices and community partnerships that can be replicated around the country. And there are specific provisions in the bill for resources for families and individuals that are FASD informed. That is, anytime that we advocate, that's what we talk about. All of this has to be FASD informed. And I think what's most important, and that is resonating amongst advocates, is parents and advocates have been there on their own and having to train those in the education, justice, medical, substance abuse, et cetera, systems. And this is providing resources to do that. And there's also a Center for Excellence to help deal with the existing barriers of diagnostic capacity, lack of FASD informed care, and replicating best practices, et cetera. And finally, there's a national FASD advisory council to drive the national FASD agenda, so we can look where we are, where we need to be in the years to come. Okay. We're going to do a kind of a tag team here. So.
We are. And one of the analogies we've been making, just that may resonate with parents and caregivers such as myself, is that we've been asked as parents, caregivers, and individuals with FASD to take on a lot. It's dealing with a medical provider that doesn't know what you're talking about when you talk about FASD, dealing with the school. It's like wearing a backpack full of pebbles. And every time you have to educate and advocate, you're adding one more little pebble in that backpack. And pretty soon you're pretty weighed down with that backpack full of pebbles. It's pretty darn full right now. And what this act is doing is just removing a few of those pebbles. It's not taking it all away, but hopefully it's removing enough so that we can start to stand a little straighter. We can start to stand up and being released from a little bit of that burden, and more of those rocks will start to fall, those pebbles will start to fall out. So this really is just the beginning. And I really hope that you'll see through the advocacy that we've been able to get done, that it is absolutely possible for all of us to make this change in our country. So I want to talk about some wins. We have had some major wins. We have been reaching out throughout the country to get a list of endorsements, and I'm sorry about the fine print on this, but we want to get organizations on board with supporting this bill, and that is something that's very helpful when it comes to reaching out to our senators and representatives. We had a meeting down in Nevada where they were kind of like, oh yeah, okay. But we had the Ackerman Center down in Nevada who had signed on to the letter of support. And once we mentioned that, they sat up and paid attention. So getting these organizations to sign on as endorsing the bill or supporting the bill or on this letter of support is a really, it's a big thing that we've been able to get done. all of these national endorsements, and then we also have 49 state or regional signers. And I really hope that in addition to contacting your 2 senators and 1 rep, which you will hear me say over and over again, I say it in my sleep, but I hope you'll really consider taking this link that's at the bottom of the screen. It's on the policy site, and forwarding that on to any, does your kiddo go to OT? Do you visit a therapist? Your school district? Carl from North Dakota, are you on the call? Carl out in North Dakota has done an amazing job of reaching out. He's got some, like the State Department of Education to sign on for North Dakota, the Child and Family Services for North Dakota to sign on. So there really are a number of ways you can go about that. And I was hoping Carl would be on and could talk to that, but really reaching out with that link and just asking them to sign on and support. But we've had great success so far. And over the next couple of weeks, this is something we really want to push to get as many organizations as possible signed on to the bill.
Yeah, and I just want to say that you want to go back to the list. The more you have sign on, the more you're going to have sign on. Tom and I met and Doug Waite met with representatives from AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they have champions, and you can see who those champions are around the country. And they're going to be looking at the letter, and they also talked about us meeting with the champions and having champions also be part of this effort. So it just and if you know of any national organizations or part of national organizations, please let us know, or please make that request that Jen's talked about, and we'll be putting these all together. The idea is to have a date certain when we're going to publicize those with the sponsors of the bill. And as we all know, we've got a special month coming up, and there's going to be a lot of activity. And so that's when we'd like to have as many organizations on board by September.
So other big win, we've had 100 meetings. This has taken a lot of work and a lot of reaching out and a lot of activity on the parts of, families, individuals, caregivers, professionals in the field, state, like everybody has really come together to get these meetings done. And just really excited to hit that landmark because we've never gotten that far before. We've never had this much outreach. And we've learned a lot from those meetings. We've learned that most of the staff, really beyond knowing that it's probably not a good idea to drink when you're pregnant, has no idea about FASD. We know that the live stories are really resonating. They want to hear from you, not us. They want to hear from you because then it is, it's lived experience coming from their constituency. Having professionals go on the call with our parents, our individuals with lived experience is very powerful. So coordinating these meetings with multiple stakeholders in place can be very, very helpful. And then just when we're talking and giving our tales of lived experience.
Yes, well, not, it's upstairs it is.
Sorry, when we're giving our tales of lived experience, it's also really important to tie it into how the Respect Act is going to help make that better. And that's working really well. So generally, we've had very responsive staff and very responsive lawmakers. We've only really had one really, really rough meeting. Sorry, Kansas. But on the whole, it's been very, very well received on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat alike. So some great meetings we've had. We had a meeting with Senator Burr's office, and thanks to coordination of a number of groups there in in North Carolina, we had almost 50 people on the call. So picture this call right now, but having that with a legislative assistant from Senator Burr's office. And he's the ranking Republican on the Senate Health Committee, which is the committee of jurisdiction that this bill needs to get through. And it was really cool because when this aide came on the call, I think expecting 1 or 2 people, and then to see multiple screens like this, like definitely taken aback, and just really well scripted, well ran, powerful meeting. We had an amazing self advocate reach out to Representative Tonko, and he's agreed to sign on as a co-sponsor. It's not publicized yet because congress.gov is quite backed up, but also agreed to come on as a champion. And it was just really powerful to have an individual with FASD, an adult individual with FASD on the call, sharing her story. So that was a great meeting. We had one with Senator Morelli, same thing. Just a really, we were on the call with the representative himself, Representative Morelli, and just really responsive, really, like I said, on the whole, we're getting a really good response. We're not getting a ton of pushback.
Yeah. And I just want to say with that meeting lasted an hour, and Representative Morelli was really engaged in understanding the issue and going into very details. He was, and I think as a result of that, will become a sponsor.
We had a meeting with Representative Moore just, I think that was yesterday. And just, again, really great because we had individuals with lived experience, again, sharing their stories. So individuals with FASD on the call talking about what it meant, what it would mean to them if this bill would pass. And then I need to give a shout out to the state of Vermont. One of our ferocious advocates in New York reached out and got a meeting in Vermont. And through that, there have been a number of families in Vermont who have now come together, and they are getting meetings with all their senators and their reps, and just doing great things. So this is really community building, which I think is such a large part of this. So we've had some other amazing meetings. That's not discounting any of the other meetings we've had, but these are just some highlights and some really good things that have come out of a few of them. So Susan, I'll pass this over to you with the stats.
Oh, and I think these are probably outdated already.
Actually.
And I should have we should probably have a comparison from the last meeting if you all were there. But we have increased our number of meetings with senators. We've 24 states, and 35 senators, and I think
that's gone up since then.
That's gone up
because we've gone over 100 now. Yeah.
Yeah, and number of House members. And it's, for some reason, we're doing better on the Senate side, but I think that's going to change, obviously, with more activity going on. And as you recall, when we first started this journey, we really focused on the policy committees in both the House and Senate. And I think we've done really well. We still have some states that we need to, some members from those committees, but 13 out of 29 in the House and 16 out of 22, so more than half in the Senate. So that's great. And I know when we met with the Burr meeting, she said, oh, she was happy to see that Murkowski and Tina Chambers are both on the committee and were authors of the bill. So success breeds success. So Burr sees that, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, then I can sign on. And then also, as you know, it's a two-pronged process. You go through the policy on the policy piece, and then the appropriations makes the decision on the appropriations. And we're not doing as well on the appropriations, but it's always good to have those things out there to, for advocates to focus on. And then, so this is a visual for your map, and hopefully this, Senate Saturday. Okay, so we just are going to have a meeting with Senator Feinstein. So California will be added to that list. So if you see your state and you've had meetings, but we don't know about it, let us know so we can put you on. It's not just for this graphic, but it's also because we're in close contact with the sponsors of the bill, the four staff, and in talking about strategy. So it's important to know who's been contacted and who needs to have a nudge from those sponsors to sign on to the bill. So that's what's really important to let us know that. And if you see states where you know people that that are still, if they're still gray and you know people in those states, we'd love to, we want to get this map all blue, because blue is our 2 senators supporting. Kansas, we're still waiting for your other senator. That's why you're, okay, and this is the House status. Same thing, although because you have more than 2 representatives, or most states have more than 2, so it's just going to be blue and red. Again, if you have any of those gray states we need, and you've had meetings, please let us know.
So goals. The big takeaway is that the more support the bill has, the better chance it has of getting through committee and getting voted on. That's the number of co-sponsors. So that is our big ask. We want to get as many co-sponsors as possible on the bill right up front, because we'll have an easier time getting through committee if that is the case.
Yeah.
We are still booking meetings. We want to book meetings. And you can use FASD Awareness Month as a hook. Really, you know, in conjunction with FASD Awareness Month, we'd like to meet with you about the FASD Respect Act. Wouldn't it be great if you could sign on as a co-sponsor during FASD Awareness Month? That's something that, you know, just a little bit of a carrot to kind of dangle in our meetings. And one of the things that I've heard from a couple of different folks is, oh, is it too late? Is it too late? Does it really matter if I do it now? And emphatically, no, it is not too late. Now is exactly the right time to be reaching out and continuing this advocacy work, because it is not over. It's not over till it's over. And really grateful for what everyone's done so far. We just need to keep pushing.
Yeah, I talked to Patrick. He's back from Representative McCollum's staff, and that's exactly his message. We need to get as many on the bill as we can, and because that shows that there's broad support for this bill. So it's right. It's not over till it's over, and we're not gonna. So we want you to, you know, to reach out.
So these meetings, and some of you may have been on a meeting already, some of you may have not. We want to go through the anatomy of what a meeting might look like. And this is kind of using the best practices that we've found over the last 100 meetings that we've done. This is not to tell you what you have to do in your state. What you do in your meetings with your senator or your rep is entirely your choice. We are not here to tell you that you have to do it a certain way. What works in your state may be different than what works in another state, and that's okay. We just want to share this is a way of doing it that we have found that works. So we get the meeting, we do a practice call, we hold the meeting, we follow up. So let's go into those steps a little bit. Getting the meeting, that is something that really needs to come from the constituent. You are far more likely to get a meeting than we are. It's possible that we might be able to get a meeting or 2, but on the whole, the legislators want to hear from you. So we'll provide you with the support materials to reach out, the script, everything. But that's where the constituents come in, is reaching out and getting that meeting again with your 2 senators, 1 rep. Or in the case of Beth from New York, you're what, 4 senators, and I can't even tell you how many. So what we do then is a practice call, and I will happily set up a date for an hour-long session where we go on a Zoom together and work out a script on what to say, how to say it. I'm not going to tell you what you have to say, but if you're a little bit stuck, or you've never done this before, or you're a little bit hesitant about sharing your story, we've got some great resources that we can share about that and help you in telling your story. There were some resources developed specifically about that by the state of Alaska that I'll have posted up on our website about telling your story. But we'll give you that support. So I'll set up a meeting for any of the stakeholders that want to be on that call. And we'll practice. We'll do a dry run. That way everybody knows what they're doing on that call. Additionally, if you want to have a professional on the call, like, so for example, on the North Carolina call, we got Dr. Phil May to go on the call with us. That's something that we can make arrangements. I can reach out and see if I can get an expert on the call. We just had one in New York this morning where Dr. Doug Waite and Dr. Christy Petrenko were on. So we can help facilitate getting professionals in the field that relate to your state on that call as well. That all kind of goes part and parcel with that practice call. Next, we'll have the meeting. And usually we find that it's great to script it out. We have the constituent who got the meeting acting as a host. And most of these meetings, you only get a half an hour. If in some cases, only 20 minutes. If you're lucky, you might engage them enough to get them for a full hour. But you want this to be a back and forth conversation, not a lecture. So we want to leave room for that conversation while we're talking with them. So the constituent that books the meeting typically acts as a host. We have 1 or 2 stories of lived experience, and we try and limit those down to about 5 or 10 minutes, because as we all know, the stories of lived experience are pretty epic. There's a lot that happens. And so narrowing it down to 1 or 2 points that the bill might help with can be very powerful in these meetings. If we have a professional on the call, we ask them to speak. And then usually we have Susan Carlson on the call to answer any questions about the mechanics of the bill. What does the bill cover? There's not anybody here, unless you've really studied it, who's going to know the bill as well as Susan. So any questions they might have, she's right there to answer them. And that's a great resource to have. So that's typically how we do it. And then follow up, anything that they talk about on the call where, oh, I wish I knew what the history of the federal response was to FASD, or I wish I knew who else was supporting the bill, that sort of thing. I can provide that to you, and then you send the thank you. So it's just the 1, 2, 3, 4, get the meeting, do the practice call, hold the meeting, do the follow-up. And we're really there to support you every step of the way. So we've had a number of questions come in over the last couple of months, and I thought I'd just kind of throw some of the more common ones out there. Why hasn't my congressman or my senator responded? This is the biggest one we get. And it can feel really disheartening when you've reached out and reached out and reached out and they're still not getting back to you. So I want to give you a little glimpse, and maybe Mike Anderson, because I think you worked as a Hill staffer before, might be able to pitch in a little bit here too. But just because they haven't responded doesn't mean they're not listening. So that reach out is really important. Right now, there's things going on with Afghanistan. There's things going on with the reconciliation bill. There's a lot going on in the House and Senate. And so maybe they read your request, maybe they saw your backup information, maybe they know they're going to support it anyway, and they just don't have time for a meeting.
Well, and then also it's been August, you've had members back in the district, and so there hasn't been regular contact between the member and the staff person. And if you send an email and they've taken a week off, and so they get a lot of emails. So it may just be at the bottom of the list. So it's always good to follow up in a week and just kind of mention that don't get PO'd because they haven't responded right away. Some, if they're right there, will do that, but it might get lost. I know that happens all the time, and it's not intentional. So it's just that it's just a crazy business and they're really busy. And so, yeah. And we're so fortunate because we've got FASD awareness coming. They're in recess now until they're both come back in the middle of September. So we've got a lot of things going in our favor, and we've done our homework. So, and Jen really does have the tools to help you do this, and it's working. I mean, it really is working.
And that reach out, it could be too that they've agreed to sign on, but they don't want to stack too many on the Republican side, for example, and not the Democrat side. They like to have kind of an equal weight because this is bipartisan legislation, they don't want to turn it into a political football. Add to that even if they do want to sign on, congress.gov is backed up for about 2 weeks. So you're looking at a bit of a wait, as we looked at in Georgia. Our friend Melissa in Georgia got her congressman to sign on, and he agreed to sign on, and it took us about a month before that came through. So just know that even if you don't hear back, it is working, and we're educating. So the other one is can NOFAS reach out and get a meeting for me? In some cases, maybe we could, but really it is so much more effective for you to do that. They want to hear from you. They don't want to hear from us. That's one of the things they'll ask right away in all of these meeting requests is, where do you live? Do you live in district? We also heard feedback from a staffer that they really appreciate it when the constituents genuinely want to be there. So there's not an organization reaching out on behalf of the constituents, it's the constituents themselves. So that you personally reaching out is the most impactful way to get this done. Why won't you do a letter or a petition for individuals to sign on? And, we've toyed around with that a lot. But really at the end of the day, when people sign a petition, they typically think they're done. And you have 2 senators and 1 rep that we need to reach. And if we look at, say, the number of people that have signed up for policy updates, that's 500. If we look at the number of state organizations that have signed on, that's 49. If we look at the numbers that we would need to get to have an impactful enough change.org type document to support legislative change, we don't have those numbers yet. So the most impactful thing we can do is do these meetings. And again, what these meetings do also is they start connecting. They start connecting providers with individuals. They start connecting families and individuals and states. And it's starting to help build this community, right? And that's a fringe benefit of it. But I think it's educating us as advocates so that once we get this bill passed, and we will, because I really want to go to the White House and get that pen and see it done. And I really want this change for my kids, more to the point. But then we know what we're doing when it comes time to take on IDEA, when it comes time to take on other disability issues. We're building our knowledge as advocates and our skill set. Why are we doing meetings? Why can't we just call the office? Why can't I just send a letter? We're doing the meetings again because these staffers really don't know much about FASD. And the staffers tend to, it's kind of an early career type of thing in a lot of the staffers' cases. Then they move into political office. So these staffers that we're meeting with, sometimes people get discouraged when they're meeting with a staffer instead of the congressperson or the senator. But really, these staffers, the more we build relationships with them, the more we're ensuring the future of FASD advocacy. because these folks are going to be in government going forward. These folks are going to be around making decisions as lawmakers. If you look at your senator's background, you'll see where they interned and where they were a legislative assistant at some point in the past. Almost all of them were. So this is ensuring our future as an FASD community in creating these relationships with the staffers. So it's a really good idea just to stay in contact with them. You know, if you see an article about FASD or about a public health issue that might be of interest to them, I'm not saying spam them, but reach out, stay in contact. And our meeting is really, they educate as well as inform. You know, we're asking them to support the act, absolutely, but every person we meet with, if they learn that much more about FASD and the challenges that we're currently facing, we're inviting them in. We're inviting them in to be part of the solution, and we need them. We need their support.
And I just want to add to that, Jen, you know, they are very knowledgeable about the existing health care systems of care. And FASD has really not been a part of that. So it's kind of this orphan issue that they don't understand and don't understand why it's important. And when I first started this and having meetings with members or staff members, they would say, well, we don't do specific diseases. And then you look and maybe their member supported the Autism Awareness Act. They don't understand how this impacts systems of care and how important it is. So that's why these meetings are critical, because letters and petitions don't provide that depth of knowledge.
So other things you can do. If you've reached out to your 2 senators and 1 rep, or you've had your meetings with your 2 senators and 1 rep, another thing you can do is, you know, do you have any family that is also impacted or also understands the issue that would be willing to reach out on your behalf in another area of the country? You know, I mentioned our New Yorker that got in touch with Vermont. We had somebody down in Texas that got had people reaching out in West Virginia. So it's not narrowed down to one area. We've got our friend Carl, who's on the call now, who is reaching out to Wyoming and Montana, in addition to North Dakota. So, you know, it doesn't have to stop where you live. Town halls, townhall.org is a site that is a great place to go to find out when your legislators will be having a town hall. I know our folks in Kansas have had a couple really great town hall meetings reaching out. And anybody in Kansas want to speak up about that experience? Going on a town hall? Kathy?
I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Our Senator Jerry Moran, when he called me, I said, when I answered his call, and he said, "This is Jerry Moran." I said, "You're my new best friend." He's like, "I could use a new best friend." So he's been amazing and so personable. I also know that some of our team members, and I think she's on the call, maybe she's not anymore, went to a town hall meeting last week, and because they were one of 12 people there, really got to sit down and talk with one of our congressmen, Congressman Jake LaTurner. And turns out, as I have, it makes it sound like our state is so small. It is not, but turns out someone that works in his office went to my daughter's high school. So we have a really good connection, and they were able to, visit with him, and we're hoping some good things are happening there. And I believe there's even more good news coming from Kansas, but I'm not at liberty to share just yet. So we're, I'm really pleased with the team just from across the state who are working together. So it's been really energizing.
Yeah, there is more good news, and I'm going to apologize in advance for my dog barking in the background. Chocolate labs, they never grow up. But yeah, there is more good news coming from Kansas. We had a parent to an individual with FASD go on a weekend fishing trip with one of their congressmen, and he has now agreed to co-sponsor. So we got another one. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad. I didn't know if I was at liberty to say, but if you are, you probably have more permission than me. So yes, that is great news.
Yeah. So organizational letters of support, that's something else you can do. Our 90 days, 90 ways. I did become aware today that we've had it's been down for like 2 days now, but our 90 days, 90 ways, when you sign up for that, you do get daily email reminders of just small things that you can do to support your FASD advocacy. Social media support on the NOFAS policy page. We have a library of social media support that you can download. We purposefully did not put a logo on it so that you can use it for any organization. But we have a social media campaign that is sized for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And there's new materials coming out weekly on that you can use to garner support there. Talking to your media. We had Michelle in Illinois who reached out to her media, and I believe the folks in Vermont are talking to public radio in Vermont there. I heard a rumor about that. And, you know, this is a local interest story, but that media coverage builds more media coverage. So that's something that you can do. And if you want some support with talking points or what to say or how to say it, you know, we're here to back you up. We're here to be your support people. But the biggest thing in this is really just not to lose hope. There is so much hope in what we're doing. And, you know, the fact that we've had 100 meetings, the fact that we are getting a favorable response, the fact that all of these people are coming together for this purpose, that's hope. And I think we just need to keep going with that. So to sign up for 90 days, 90 ways, you just do that on the website where the pink arrow is there under the FASD Respect Act. Again, that's small supported activities. We do have a new drop-in and advocate session now that your eyes have, I burnt your corneas with my bright pink thing, but if you have a question, you can always reach out to Susan or I or anybody on the policy team during the week. But if you want to just sit down and ask us a quick question, Wednesdays, noon Eastern, we are always on, and you can connect with us and just drop in. It's not like this where we have a formal presentation planned. It really is just to answer your questions or give you some encouragement. I am your biggest cheerleader, rah-rah, but hop on and say hi if you haven't. We also have the FASD Respect Act Champions group on Facebook. And this is where I give Friday updates and shout outs and urgent alerts. And if you're having trouble reaching out or you need some encouragement, it's just a place to kind of gather online and support each other. We've had 143 members join since last month. And you find that through the NOFAS page on Facebook and under groups and join in there. So we're here to help. Bottom line, we are here to be your backup singers, your cheerleaders, your supporters, whatever you need to be able to do this outreach and advocacy. We want to help you. And so we're just really encouraged and grateful for the impact that you've had so far, and we're going to do this. I know we can. One thing that you can do for FASD Awareness Month is invite your senators or your reps to Run Fast. Run Fast is the virtual 5K that was dreamed up and envisioned by fabulous self-advocate Rebecca Toulouse. We now have meetups happening in all 4 corners of the country. We have bus ads in Wisconsin that one of our affiliates has done. We just have a lot of support coming out for this. And I think it's a really positive way to showcase our community, which is why it's a great idea to invite your senators and your reps to run fast. Also a good media opportunity there. So we are about 15 minutes left. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions. I have not kept up with the chat. I see that the chat has kind of blown up a little bit. And I'll download the questions from the chat if there's anything that anybody's asked. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts about this? Anybody have a success story that they'd like to share? And Carl, I may call on you because I know earlier in the presentation, I referenced the outreach that you've done with your state agencies in getting them to sign on. And maybe you could talk for a second about how you've had success in doing that.
Well, I have to give kudos to Susan and Jen for the second part of my message. I reached out to multiple state agencies, specifically our Department of Human Services, which controls our mental health budget and developmental disabilities budget, and the Department of Public Instruction. And we had to work to get the Department of Public Instruction to say yes, but they did ultimately sign off on a letter of support for the Respect Act. The Department of Human Services took one look at it and said, yes, no problem, and did it right away. But we had to counter every argument that the Department of Public Instruction had. And I turned to Jen and Susan for those answers a couple of times. But ultimately we were successful in getting that information. So don't hesitate to ask questions if you have them, because somebody somewhere will have the answer. So, and then in regards to Montana, I'm working through state agencies out there now to get support, and working also to make contact with the elected officials in the coming week. So it all starts with conversations. In my case, my son has had some significant impacts in his life this last week. So I'm using that as an update to everything I tell the staffers. That personal story is where you get the hook. So that's, yeah. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. So you never know when you're going to get that bite that'll say, yes, we'll sign this. But any argument they give, you can counter. So, yeah, but thank you.
Welcome. And I see Barbara Hansen has her hand up. And thank you, Carl, for all the work you've been doing. I just really quick wanted to address a question from the chat about, do you want to try and get your senators and rep all in one meeting, or do you want to try and get separate meetings? And you do want to try and get separate meetings because each of your legislators is going to have different priorities. And trying to get them all together at one time can be exceedingly difficult. So it really would typically look like 3 meetings is how it would normally work. But if you can get all 3 at the same time, hey, good on you. That's awesome. However we get them, we want them. So Barbara, you had your hand up.
Yes, first I wanted to thank Jen and Susan for being on the call with us with Zoe Lofkin's office. We were on a real high after that. So thank you for all your support with that. So I have a logistical question. So we've been trying at the state level to get FASD under OHI and have had no luck in doing that. We get nibbles and then they stop, and we do have a senator, state senator, and an assembly person who said we'll think about carrying it for this next year. If let's say this passes, it will pass. Should we continue? Yeah, when it passes, should we continue that kind of effort at the state level I'm trying, or should we wait for this to happen? I would like some guidance with that.
I would, Barbara, I would say that you always continue your efforts on the state level, because this does not change anything with eligibility, but gives you support for doing that on your state level. So I know Florida is in the process of doing that, of looking at eligibility, the advocates there. So I would encourage states to do that. And I mean, obviously our goal, once this bill is passed, is to look at all those categories of eligibility and have another bill that would address that. But in the meantime, I would do the work on the state level.
And so I did spend quite a bit of time looking at each state with their eligibility, having if FASD was included in any kind of at the state level. What I found, and I couldn't find it for every state, but what I found was that Alaska, of course, has it. Minnesota has it, but it says only FAS. It doesn't say FASD unless that's been changed. And Colorado has it. So am I correct in saying that those are the only ones in the United States where there's been success?
Well, you've got the website that would give that information, and I haven't heard of any others. One of the things that we've talked about as a policy team is drafting model legislation for states to do that. I know I'm in the process of doing that for the Building FASD State System section once that's passed, because if you have that in statute, it's going to be more long lasting and than having a governor set this up. So I think I'm going to put that on my to-do list to look to see how that would look if we did a model statute that every state could use for their own states.
Yeah, we do have the law written. We just don't have anyone carrying it. But when you said that there's a website for that, I'm not sure where that is. Am I?
Bill Track 50.
Maybe Jan, you could.
Yeah, I'll pop that in the chat, but
Okay.
Bill Track 50 is a site that if you're not familiar with it, I suggest that you do.
What's it called?
Bill Track 50. And you can sign up for it for free. And it will, if you type in a keyword, it will give you, let's say you type in FASD, it will go through the whole country and let you know what's on the docket for FASD. If you want to look up the staff for a senator or representative, you type in the senator or representative's name and it'll pull up a staff listing and legislative priorities. So it's just, there's a group in California that had given that to us. Yeah, it's a great resource there. So billtrack50.com. There was a question about working with organizations that are not NOFAS affiliates on legislation. And really, policy and affiliates are kind of not completely separate issues, but moving policy forward, so much of that comes from individuals, not organizations. So do we want to work with our affiliates? Absolutely. Our affiliates are amazing and they do amazing things and they're really involved in the policy process. But policy doesn't stop and begin and end with organizations. Policy begins and ends with people. And so that's where our focus as the policy team is we're going to focus on the people who are wanting to make those changes within their state or within their city or within the country. And so our focus really has been from a policy perspective on just reaching out to as many people as possible and getting that individual grassroots advocacy going. Fia, I see you had your hand up.
Hey, yeah, a couple of things regarding FASD Awareness Month. If our state doesn't have one, is it too late to try and get it done to get the petition submitted? Because I think if you're, in a state and you have an FASD awareness month that's been signed by the governor, that's a little more compelling than just the national one.
Never too late.
So what about the petition I filled out? Has that been sent in for Washington?
I will have to double check.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I sent it in, but
Okay. That'd be
yeah,
great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I would echo what Jen said, particularly if you know somebody in the governor's office, because there's usually one person that's in charge of doing those, and they can turn those around and go through the red tape. So
Great, because that really would be a compelling thing if your state has it. Secondly, I put a link to a new book that's come out on a clinical guide. And but our child's pediatric psychiatrist has become an advocate, and he wants to help promote this right now and get articles out and do things like that. But we need some support. I'm an RN, I'm a lawyer, my wife's an MD. We're willing to write articles and get that, but we would really like some help from the national organization to get that done. Because what from our perspective as clinicians is this is not being taught in medical school still. And if we are serious about prevention, we've got to start and treatment and early treatment. We have to really start addressing this heads on. And I know the act is so important, but in the meantime, we're losing kids. And so if there's a double track, I mean, I'm working on advocacy, but I would really like to help take this on, because I'm just continue to be astounded by the ignorance of clinicians on this issue. I find it frightening. I didn't mean that to sound harsh, but it's worrisome. It really is worrisome.
Yeah.
I'm also a mental health professional, and I heartily agree with everything that Fia said, and would very much like to start working with other mental health professionals, and have been trying to do presentations and so forth. But yes, it's just astounding. I think it's more than ignorance. I think it's resistance.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
because alcohol's so dicey,
Right. I had a second question, which is not exactly related to this, but I'm a constituent of the state senator who is the chair of the state appropriations committee. And I was thinking about how to set up a meeting with them. How about saying, well, if you want money from these lovely grants, this is what a state has to do. And then taking the list of the state eligibility from the federal legislation and saying, here, we need this and this and this. It's to try to link the state and the federal so that we have a coordinated plan that we're working toward.
So I think, the only reason I hesitate even the slightest on that is because we do need to stay really laser focused on getting this passed, because with this passing, it will provide additional funding for training of medical providers, of physicians, of mental health providers, and will address some of the things that yourself and Fia mentioned as struggles and challenges. So I think that's part of why we're just hammering on, let's pass this. And that's not being blind to the fact that absolutely there's other things that need to be done outside of that particular scope. Tying in with your state legislature and your state legislators to get them on board with supporting this, because they see a benefit to their state in doing it. If they're willing to reach out, then, because a lot of times they're connected through party lines or even, through professional affiliation. If they're willing to say, hey, we to your federal legislators, hey, yeah, we as a state really want this. This is a good thing. That's not a bad idea either. And then, yes, absolutely, you will want somebody to be able to champion it in state once the bill passes. to be able to get that task force built and to have them be ready to apply to get that state funding that they would be eligible for. So I'm not saying don't do it. It is a great idea. We just really need to make sure that the bill passes first, and that comes with, and I know you've already done this, Francis, reaching out to your 2 senators and your rep. So we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and stay on for about 5 more minutes just to answer any remaining questions. Don't forget that we do have the weekly drop-in. So if you have more questions, feel free to drop in on Wednesdays at noon Eastern. And there's a link on our Facebook page to that. There's a link on our website for that, for the Zoom for that. And I just want to thank you all for being here and thank you for your advocacy. Carl, I saw your hand up.
Just a quick question. Is there language specific to requesting a proclamation for Fetal Alcohol Awareness Day that we can use as a model for our state?
There is. I know Florida has put some materials together there.
Okay.
I know Georgia's got a great outline as well. So we will work on getting that information disseminated.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Hey, Jennifer, this is Christina. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read the question on the chat. Will there be a transcript of the chat after the meeting so that we can tap into all those links?
Well, there hasn't been in the past, but that's a great idea. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Then when you get ready to do that, let me know and I can help you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Carl. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your advocacy. Appreciate your time. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like us to cover next month, feel free to reach out. And happy advocacy.
Happy FAST Awareness Month. It's going to be busy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.